monsters emerged from a bright flash of light in a huge crowd. Their heads, reminiscent of animals and disgusting insects, were adorned with eyes that glowed violet. 30 years have passed since these creatures appeared. But thanks to those who have acquired supernatural powers, they no longer pose a threat to humanity. All these terrible creatures were bravely fought by young people who used their abilities of various elements and directions. This gave birth to a new international sport, Hunter's League, and there was a man. To the sounds of a cheering crowd, their applause. A guy comes onto the stage, reloading his pistol and putting on safety glasses. He prepared for battle. He was a legendary player. However, after his underwhelming performance in the summer season and after he failed to make the playoffs, all his achievements and hard work disappeared in the blink of an eye. People on the internet wrote hateful comments, "It's all over with Chanyun. He just throws money around left and right. When is he going to leave?" Exactly. They could afford to take 2 other players above the league if they got rid of him. But Chanyun is the only reason his team is still winning. Pro teams are not in the business of handing out privileges. They need to focus on current results rather than past results. Perhaps he deserves more respect after all. Rifle. They haven't seen this before. It's kind of wild. On the front pages of the newspaper, there were headlines called "The Fall of a Legend." Lee Chang-yoon suffers another crushing defeat. And all this because of these 2 seasons. Having read all the malicious comments, he throws the phone on the floor in irritation. In a spacious room, with stands decorated with golden cups, a man is sitting in a classic suit. His tired eyes look forward. Finally, he says quietly, "Chung-hyun." He, sitting in the chair opposite, raises his bowed head and clarifies, "Right?" The brunette notes that it looks like this season will be his last. Lee Chang-yoon, startled by such words, asked again in bewilderment, "The last one?" The man explains that the president wants him to resign and focus on marketing and business. There is also the question of his compulsory military service. He already understands that he can't do this forever. Right? Such words shocked Lee Chang-hyun greatly, causing the only reaction he could produce to be a deep sigh. But at the same time, he thought that it would be better if they just told him to leave the team. He'd be lying if he said he never thought about leaving. He would inevitably grow old and his skills would deteriorate. But he can't believe he's being told to become the team's figurehead, especially when he single-handedly led the team to victory. Gritting his teeth angrily, Chang-yoon kicked as hard as he could on the coffee table in front of him and shouted, "It can't be." From his blow, the piece of furniture even flew into the air, which greatly frightened the man and he even hiccuped in surprise. Following this, a loud stomp was heard and the brunette, looking at how Lee Chang-jian opened the snow-white doors, worriedly asked where he was going. Without even turning around, he answered rudely. He didn't think he should listen to him anymore. The man got angry at these words and even shouted after him, "You little idiot. He's an ungrateful freak. Does he know about this? The guy should show at least a little respect and listen when adults talk to him. That's why his image is so bad. Everyone wants him to resign. He shouldn't have gone to the trouble of raising such a worthless and ungrateful person like him." The last phrase resonated painfully in Chang-hyun's heart, which is why he stopped and turned around and walked towards the brunette. The man, not expecting such a reaction, screamed in fear. "What? What's happened?" Lee Chang-yoon grabbed him tightly by the collar of his shirt and asked him, "Did he raise him?" He got so comfortable here that he forgot who brought him here. Chung-hyun thought that if only he hadn't tempted him to activate his full bloom in high school. Full bloom has a C rank, plus the requirement for increasing this rank is that it increases over time. The ability of this is to awaken a person's talent. Full blossom rank increases will soon stop, but all stats will increase in proportion to the person's rank. The man, a little out of breath, insisted. He was only doing what was best for him. Lee Chang-jun became even more angry after this and abruptly threw him to the floor. The brown-haired man trembled with fear and tried to cover his head with his hands. Chang-jian, looking at him, suddenly realized that it was all because of him. But nothing will change even if he uses violence. He feels worthless. Walking down a busy street, Li Changjian continued to think. He held so many trophies in his hands, but it all ended like this. All of his high-ranking skills and perks are extremely useful. But there is no more room for improvement. Changjian had his achievements. All-Seeing Eye levels plus, Magical Weapon Transformation level A, Full Blossom C plus, Full Blossom Awakened Talent, Legendary Sniper, Spatial Maneuvering. But now, he also realized that all he had left was an aging body and a skill that was prematurely blocked. His full bloom stops him from advancing further. If there is any point in continuing to live. Evening fell on the city, and Li Changjian stood on the sidewalk waiting for the traffic light to turn green. When the right color lit up, he began to cross the road. He began to think. He wondered, was it all in vain? Does he have any reason to continue living? Suddenly, Shang Yuan was blinded by the headlights of a huge truck heading straight towards him. Stopping and calmly looking the approaching mortal danger in the face, he realized that he no longer saw any point in living on. The next moment, the sound of a loud blow was heard. Li Changyun, bleeding, falls on the asphalt and random passers-by who saw this begin to scream in horror. Little by little, worried people gather around him desperately shouting, "Someone should call an ambulance." Is this an ambulance? There was an accident here. Chang Jiayun at that moment looked at the puddle of blood that had formed right under his head and understood, no. It is not true. He wanted to keep trying just a little more, and he wanted to hear the crowd chant his name again. He wanted to give an incredible performance on this stage, which makes his heart beat faster. And he wanted to come out on top with his team with honor. Imagining all these dreams very vividly in his head, Li Changjian even shed tears. Afterwards, his eyes slowly closed, and now he realizes that this was the last thing he could remember from his past life. Time travel. All people have fantasized about this topic at least once. They always regret something, so it is typical for them to strive to return to the past. Usually, this is nothing more than a fantasy because it is impossible, but a blue system window notifies you that the scan has been completed. Based on the results of the physical characteristics test, the strength remains undetermined. Reflex is 6. Flexibility is 6 and 6. Endurance is 6. Regeneration is 5. Next, he needs to press the button in the lower right corner and rise. The first thing Chang Hyun sees is his hands. Waking up in an unknown room, the first thing he thinks about is wondering what it is. When he opened his eyes, he realized that he had returned to the day his career began. In the next room, with thick durable glass covering the entire wall and many computers, the doctor looking at a piece of paper noted out loud, "Okay. The results have been received. She must wait a minute." The woman he addressed and who was standing nearby obediently answered, "Of course." Soon a man with glasses and combed-back dark hair handing her documents, congratulated the woman on the fact that her son was indeed an awakened one. She took the papers and thanked him in confusion. Li Changjian, dressed in a medical shirt, turned to her with a smile saying that everything was ready. They can go. The woman, without taking her eyes off the documents, quietly agreed, yes. Soon, as they were leaving a large multi-story building, she asked when he found out. He admitted that it wasn't really that long ago. The woman, closing her eyes, insistently noted that it was better for him not to think about something stupid. Changjian, walking next to him now in ordinary clothes and putting his hands in his pockets, asked with a smile. For example, like becoming a hunter? She explained quite seriously that becoming a hunter is very difficult. The hunters he sees on TV are the best players in the division. There are very few of them. If he expects glory, then he better give up right now. But Li Changyun smiled at her again and thought, in fact, he came from the future where he was a legendary player in the Hunter League. He would like to tell his mother that, but she won't believe him. Therefore, he promised that he would prove it to her. However, the woman just tried to hit him on the shoulder and exclaimed in displeasure, she doesn't need her son to prove anything to her. Suddenly, she realized that she had missed. Then looking at Chang Hyun, she wondered, did he just dodge? When he suddenly stood up to run away from her, the woman added that next year he would be in high school. He should focus on his studies. Li Changyun, being in a good mood, replied that she doesn't have to worry. It will be so. But, she still insistently added that she was saying this seriously. He, without answering her, just thought, yes. He will prove it to his mother. They will see what the legendary hunter can do by returning to the past. Form is temporary, but class is forever. Potential to become a hunter. The awakening test uses state-of-the-art technology to analyze potential physical performance. However, there is one thing that the test cannot measure: skills. Usually, the awakened can only guess what their skills are and how to use them. Li Changjayun, waking up and sitting up on a special bed, sees a bright blue color light up on his palms. Closing his eyes, he concentrates, and when he opens them, they become bright red and a beautiful fiery flower appears in his pupil. Well, all this does not apply to him because he has an all-seeing eye. Crossing his legs, Shan Hian lay on the bed in his room and looked at the system window that popped up in front of him. There were 3 of his skills listed there. Skill A magical weapon transformation, Skill B level S plus all-seeing eye, which recognizes the essence of the target, and Skill E full bloom, which was not activated. He took a look at it and noted, as expected, his full bloom returned to rank E. Then, minimizing the system window, Li Changjayun calmed down. He can increase the level of his skills. He can always get his perks back. What's more important for him now is getting used to his current body and skills. Sitting down on the bed, turning towards the mirror, he rolled up the sleeve of his hoodie and tried to flex his biceps. However, Chang Jiayun immediately noted that this was a rather pathetic sight. He was distracted by the scream coming from the living room, which is why he says they should watch him for a year. Turning around in surprise, Li Changyun said out loud, "What is this?" After that, he looked out of the room and watched as his father, turning to his mother, insisted this was their son's life. He should be allowed to do whatever he wants with it. But the woman did not agree. He is still in high school. They cannot allow him to act on his own. It would be irresponsible. He tried to convince her. That's why he says they should only give him a year. It's only 1 year. If they don't succeed, they can move on. Right? The woman insisted. He understands that at his age, even 1 year is important. What will he do if their son wastes his time? I am chasing a pipe dream. While all his classmates will get good grades because they spent their time studying. Watching his parents argue, Chang Jiayun remembered, yes, his mother was categorically against him becoming a hunter. But he can't afford to waste time arguing with her. Suddenly, the woman exclaims loudly, "So much can change in a year." Hearing this, it suddenly dawned on him that she was right. Within a year, players will be able to participate in dozens of matches. Players gain experience and improve their skills with every match. In the past, and his full bloom would have been rank B if he had started a year earlier. This alone could greatly influence the course of events. Finally, taking hold of the door handle and throwing it open, Chang Yun announced that he didn't need a year. Parents should give him only 6 months. He will prove this to his mother in 6 months. The father, hearing this, smiled contentedly, but the woman was wary. Li Changyun clenched his fists tightly, hitting himself on the chest and repeated, he was serious. He will show them. Chang Yun's face showed extreme bewilderment, and he exclaimed, "What? He can't come in." The girl at the front desk confirmed this. Minors require permission from a guardian. He asked again, did he need the guardian's signature? Did he understand her correctly? She confirmed this with a smile on her face. Yes, that's right. Heading out of the hall, Li Changhyun, irritated, realized that he had completely forgotten about it because in his previous life, he was an adult. He can't practice now if he returns home. Afterwards, he notes out loud if there is another way. Suddenly, someone puts a hand on his shoulder, and when he turns around, a tall blonde man in a white uniform happily greets him. They haven't seen each other for a long time. The guy asks why he is here. Li Changyun turns around and remembers that it's Kim Dejun. In his previous life, he was a melee fighter who invariably received the 2nd or 3rd rank in the 1st division. He also remembers that Dajin was on the cover of newspapers, where there were interesting headlines. Are readers interested in looking into the hunter's home? What kind of hunter do they want to protect? Secrets of the popularity of hunter Kim Dae-jun. Chang Yun also notes that he never took first place, but he was often compared to a top player. Frankly, it came easy to him. But of course, in this life he shouldn't know who this guy is. So now, running his hand through his hair and fainting bewilderment on his face, Chang Yun asked, "Is he like that?" Dajin, actively gesturing, introduced himself, and noted that he was studying in a parallel class. Does this mean anything to him? At school he is known as an awakened one. However, despite this, Chang Yun sighed thoughtfully, and, turning away, repeated that this was the first time he had heard about him. He shocked Kim Dae-jun, but quickly pulling himself together, he smiled awkwardly and said that this happens. Anyway, what is he doing here? He came to the selection for the Seoul Junior Club of the Hunter Academy. Lee Chang-yun clarified that this is not the case. He wanted to use the gym, but was told he needed his parents' permission. Dajin's eyes immediately lit up with joy, and he asked in a friendly manner, "Does he need help?" He's a member of the Academy's junior club, so he has easy access. Chang Yun, hearing this proposal, understood that at that time he had already joined the club. However, Kim Dae-jun added that in return he wants to watch him train. He thought humbly, well, nothing is free. Therefore, without expressing much joy, he still agreed, okay. Lee Chang-yun thought that this was a little annoying, but at least he didn't lose anything. After a couple of minutes, the administrator announced that everything went fine. She booked the Seoul Hunter Academy members' hall for them, with Daegun as their guardian. They can head to Hall 3. Sometime later, Chang Yun was sitting on a bench in the locker room of the gym and tying the laces on our sneakers. Kim Dae-jun, waiting for him, suddenly noted that he didn't think that there would be anyone at school who wanted to become a hunter. Looking up, Lee Chang-yun clarified, "Is he talking about him?" He answered with a smile, "Exactly. As he said earlier, he is a member of the Academy Club. But since most of the members are older than him, and he doesn't know anyone, it was difficult for him to fit into the team. So why did Chang Yun come here?" He also said that he would not qualify. Despite the name of it, no one uses this place for training. He, jumping up to stretch his legs, explained that this was most likely because everyone was preparing to join the Hunter League. Overall, it's just a general training ground. Heading to the middle of the hall, Lee Chang-yun asked Dae-jun, "Is he sure he wants to stay?" "He's just going to test his skills and do some exercises, so it won't be anything exciting." But Kim Dae-jun confidently replied that in this case, help him with his leg, since they go to the same school. After that, Chang Yun thought with irritation, even in this life, this guy is trying to attract attention to himself. Given his past life, he is decades older than this upstart. He's definitely not going to ask him for help. A couple of minutes later, Lee Chang-yun enters the training hall field as system windows appear around him. One of them announces that the setup is complete. Does he want to continue? It immediately selects the confirmation function. The next moment a bright flash appears in front of Chang Yun. But unlike Dae-jun, he confidently looks forward and doesn't even try to close his eyes. Suddenly, a huge leg equipped with armor appears right in front of him, and Lee Chang-yun realizes that this is a clone of a tank, a player who distracts the enemy and prevents him from causing damage to weakly protected characters. He caused it. If he compares it to video games, he feels like the tank would be something like a training dummy. The only difference is that this is such a difficult, nasty one that it is almost impossible to come out of hiding. The tank raises his arm in the armor of a huge translucent weapon. The system window that appears indicates that the protection for this is not defined. Kim Dae-jun, coming a little closer to Chang Yun, clarifies, did he press something in the wrong place? He needed to summon a regular clone if he wanted to train. Even in training mode, it will be extremely difficult for him to do anything at his current level. However, Lee Chan-yoon, creating a spear with a blue glow in his hand, confidently asks, "What is this about? Punching bags must be durable. It's hard to do anything about it, right?" But Dejun should only speak for himself. Starting a training fight, Chan-yoon wondered how he could break something hard and durable. The easiest way is to hit the target with something even stronger and harder. Obviously, he won't be able to do that now. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have other options. Having jumped into the air and examined the enemy, he understands that he needs to aim for the joints. After this, Lee Chan-yoon confidently points the tip of the weapon directly at the shoulder joint, and when his spear reaches the target, bright sparks appear. The arm of the tank clone is cut off, and he, having landed, realizes with pleasure that he has excellent control of his own body. And now he needs an all-seeing eye. By activating this skill, Chan-yoon scans the opponent's silhouette and notices the remaining weak spots on his body. Then, standing up straight and extending his spear towards the clone, he rushes forward. Having achieved this, Lee Chan-yoon immediately attacks the tank clone in the torso, arms, and legs, causing it to eventually fall apart and disappear, defeated. Throwing the weapon over his shoulders, he noted with pleasure that he did not expect everything to go so well. He needed to videotape it. Kim Dejun, who had been watching the fight all this time, exclaimed, "It can't be. It was cool. He must have set up a minimum defense for the enemy. Otherwise, he would have needed a unique weapon to inflict any damage on the clone." Chan-yoon, hearing such reasoning, thinks displeasantly, perhaps the guy is distorting what he saw because he thinks it doesn't make sense. After clapping his hands, Dejun hastens to add that Lee Chan-yoon's movements were impressive. Nonetheless, he is confident that he would have been able to qualify. Was he trained in sword fighting? Or on spears? He wants to try it too before their team's training starts. Dejun heads towards the exit and answers indifferently. He can start. But at the same time, he confidently thinks that he doesn't need to explain anything to this guy. He will see for himself when he tries. After some time, the day comes to an end and a starry night sets in. The sword, which seems quite heavy in the hands of Kim Dejun, almost falls to the floor. And he, already quite tired, wonders what. He is sure that Lee Chan-yoon did the same thing. In front of him stood a clone of a tank, completely intact and unharmed. Having opened the system window with advanced settings, Dejun wiped drops of sweat from his face and thought out loud. He also set the enemy's defense to a minimum. Then, looking up at the clone, he wondered, so why isn't this taking any damage? Reasoning about this, Kim Dejun once again swung his sword and tried to attack the enemy. However, it managed to defend itself with a shield, and he had to grit his teeth in indignation. The round moon stood high in the sky, and warm light poured from all the windows of the multi-story building. The sounds of blows continued to be heard in the training room, and sparks flew from the clones. Counting Dejun, not giving up and endlessly attacking it, wiped the sweat from his face and frowned, noting that he must have configured something incorrectly. Suddenly, someone called out to him, and turning around, he saw a brunette in the same athletic uniform, who was standing with his elbows against the wall. The guy asked in a friendly manner, is he not even going to greet someone who is more experienced than him? Kim Dejun immediately bowed and politely exclaimed that he was glad to see him. The brunette, looking behind him, said in surprise, "What? Why is he fighting a tank clone?" Dejun sheepishly scratched the back of his head and smiled awkwardly, answering that he just wanted to stretch his legs and practice a little. However, the guy, leaning against the clone, grinned and asked, "Who even fights with a tank clone to warm up?" Then, tapping Kim Dejun's forehead with his index finger, the brunette adds that he won't be able to damage this even on low settings. He shouldn't be a fool. These words hurt Dejun, but he did not become rude, but only bit his lip irritably. In the window of the train rushing across the bridge, a night city and a calm river flashed. Chan-yoon, standing leaning against the door and watching the view, thought, he is too weak. The Universal Training Base offers basic equipment for training hunters. After Dajuan left, he had the opportunity to fight the monsters he faced in the Hunter League and use the AI hologram feature. It acts as a sparring partner. He came to the conclusion that he was too weak. His all-seeing eye is only rank B, so he can't land a powerful blow. His physical characteristics are only slightly superior to those of an ordinary person. He needs to work on his body to become stronger. At least full bloom speeds up regeneration. This he can achieve only through training. But he won't have enough time. In the evening, the training room is only available to club members, and he cannot get permission from his parents every time he wants to train. He needs to find a place where he can train alone. Suddenly a call from Kim Dajuan appeared on Changyun's phone screen. Picking up the phone, he said in surprise. "What?" "He is listening." Dajuan immediately asked, "Is he coming to practice?" Lee Changyun asked wordly, "What happened?" However, he somehow strangely replied that he was treating me to dinner. "So will Changyun come?" Soon he entered a small restaurant with a bright yellow, which was called the Best Hangover Soup. There he was met by Kim Dajuan, who, having taken one of the tables, waved his hand to him, saying that he should come here. Sitting down opposite him, Lee Changyun noted that he seemed to have a lot of money. Although embarrassed by them, Dajuan admitted that in fact there are too many of them. Then pouring water into glasses, he began. They already know that it is impossible to become a hunter if a person has a poor family. Changyun instantly became sad and bowed his head, quietly noting that it was true. At the same time, he also realized that the awakening tests and weapons are very expensive. But even so, too much money. This guy is the same as in his previous life. He always did everything he could to be the center of attention. After adjusting the cutlery, Lee Changyun clarified, "So what? Why did he ask him to come?" Kim Dajuan said, a little confused, "What does he mean?" Lee Changyun explained with a smile that he was sure that he was not invited to dinner. Because he could not afford it himself, Dajuan awkwardly clasped his hands together and replied that he was right. Dinner was just an excuse. He wanted to ask him something. Lee Changyun, raising his hand to take their order, suggested a clone of the tank. Kim Dajuan agreed and said that he tried to repeat exactly after him. But nothing came with it. He was curious if he had configured anything differently. Well, he doesn't even manage to finish when suddenly his gaze meets someone, causing Dajuan to lower his head in shame. Changyun, turning in the direction he was looking, sees three guys and is surprised to note that they have the same shape as Kim Dajuan. Are these his teammates? A tall brunette, walking in front of two guys who laugh at his joke, says, as he already said, it was a monkey who beat a tank clone with a mithril sword. One of his friends clarified, maybe the guy was testing the strength of his sword. However, the brunette insisted, no, he actually tried to defeat the clone with this. He just didn't have a word. Can they understand him? It was so loud. Dajuan, about whom the discussions were being held, blushed more and more with every word, almost burning with shame. The guy, sitting down with his teammates at the next table, continued, he asked this idiot why he was doing this. It turned out that he saw his friend do it. Maybe he should have asked if his friend shot laser beams. Another guy with short hair said it must have been funny watching two idiots do it. The young man agreed, but unfortunately, his friend was not there. Lee Changyun, listening to them, took a sip of water from a glass and understood everything. It turns out that this guy was disturbing Kim Dajuan while he was training hard. He can't just leave it like that. So, with a loud thud, he dropped the glass onto the table. He deliberately, loudly addressed Dajuan, settings for a clone of tanks. No, he doesn't need to change anything. It's easy if you know the trick. But it's good that he's trying to figure it out. There are a bunch of idiots who say it can't be done. But they are simply unable to do it. The brunette, hearing this, became angry and abruptly stood up from his seat while Changyun continued, does no one at his academy know this? Did his friend pay to be accepted? However, when a large shadow loomed over them, Kim Dejuan immediately asked Lee Chanyun not to speak like that. The brunette suddenly puts one foot directly on the surface of the table and, approaching him, rudely says he must shut up. He's Changyun, right? Who he thinks he is? Is he disrespecting an academy student? If he had struck him awake, only broken bones would have remained here. He will only give him 3 seconds. He better apologize. Lee Chanyun calmly looked up and down and thought mockingly. Why is this guy saying that? Just like a movie cliché, signing heavily and clicking his tongue, he also noted that he was really looking forward to this free dinner. However, slowly rising under the gaze of the brunette, Chanyun very sharply and with all his strength punches him in the face, causing him to fly back. His friends, seeing this, immediately rose from their seats, exclaiming in fear. Jisoo, trying to pick it up. They looked in bewilderment at Lee Chanyun, who shook off his hand and angrily noted to himself, if someone gives him 3 seconds, this is what he will do. He never misses an opportunity to strike first. Put Jisoo on his feet, the offended shouted, he is a petty idiot. But Chanyun, coming closer to him, confidently said, the guy should listen to him. For Dejuan, he may be older and more experienced. But to him, he is just a stranger. So the guy shouldn't mess with him. Jisoo, not wanting to listen to this, tried to hit him again, asked what it was. However, Lee Chanyun easily dodged, simply tilting his head back, looked at him with crazy eyes and asked him what he said earlier, there will be little left of him if the guy hits him. That's it, what if? He became so angry that the veins on his face bulged, and swearing loudly, Jisoo raised his fist again to strike. But Chanyun instantly blocked his hand and again attacked his face, and why did he even stagger? But still, wiping his broken lip, Jisoo threatened, now he really messed up. The next moment, Lee Changyun's face showed surprise and he wondered, what is this? Can't be. Jisoo was enveloped in pink streams of energy, and the air around him seemed to be heating up. Chanyun suddenly realized with horror that his all-seeing eye was warning him. A warning from this actually appears in the system window, which can calculate the risks and identify weaknesses. He jumps up sharply, creating a brighter flash of light and screamed loudly, a small earthquake that passed through the restaurant. Lee Changyun had to sit down, and looking at the dent in the floor, he wondered, a gravitational attack. Is this guy really going to use this skill here? These are ordinary people here. The other 3 students of the academy at this time were taking panicking people out into the street so that they would not get hurt. Jisoo, not paying attention to them at all, extends her right hand forward and directs a stream of energy towards Chanyun, smashing the table, chairs and dishes into pieces. He had to jump back to avoid getting hurt, and as he tried to catch his breath, he realized he wasn't going to be too hard on this guy. But having risen, he called out to him and confidently said, he will become a corpse. But Jisoo, again accumulating energy in his hands to strike, replied that these were his words. Then he attacks Lee Changyun, but he manages to jump high up, and landing further away he says irritably, it can't be. At the same time, Changyun is also trying to sensibly assess the situation. He can evade the guy's skill thanks to the all-seeing eye, but cannot close the distance. Well, okay, abruptly picking up the plate from the floor and throwing it forward, he almost hits Jisoo right in the face. But he smiles contentedly, easily stops it, using his abilities and throws it to the floor, breaking it into pieces. After that, laughing, Jisoo asks, did he really think that this would work against him? Suddenly another plate rushes right into his face, from which all the contents splash out on him. Changyun continues to throw dishes at him, noting that Jisoo should have dodged. He begins to get nervous while Lee Changyun thinks that after using his skill, a person needs to wait a while to use it again. This is called a rollback. Jisoo does not hide his confusion, and, shouting insults, concentrates all his strength on stopping the plates. They fall again and are shattered, but at the same time Changyun calmly notes that if You use the skill without thinking about restoring it, this is what will happen. After that, he turns to him again, notes that now another plate will arrive. Suddenly Jisu's hands were overcome by trembling, and he realized, it can't be, he can't use his skill. Therefore, the very next moment it actually breaks on his face, and Lee Changyun triumphantly notes that without the ability to use the skill, the person will be completely open to the enemy's attacks. Finding himself stained with food and closing his bruised eye, Jisu screamed, he's an idiot. He should stop with such tricks. But almost immediately, he adds with bewilderment, what? Where did this guy go? Changyun doesn't actually find himself in the same place where he stood a few seconds ago. And somewhere nearby his voice suddenly rings out. His head, Jisu begins to panic and twist this in all directions, asking what? Lee Changyun runs past him like a bullet, his fist straight towards his stomach. He staggers back and almost falls, reminding him what an idiot he is. He said head, Changyun, out of his sight, says for the second time, head. Jisu looks around and asks, again. At the same time he also wonders where this guy will strike now. Again in the stomach? After that, he tries to cover this part of his body with his hands. But Lee Changyun appears from behind, slapping him in the face. Jisu, weakening, falls to the floor, and he, grabbing him by the collar and continuing to strike him in the face, repeats head, 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 head. Soon Jisu's face swells terribly, and he himself finds himself unconscious. Changyun, having calmed down and gotten up from his seat, wipes the sweat from his face. Suddenly looking around at the empty and destroyed room, he wonders, now what? It wasn't he who organized the pogrom. But he did strike first. And this guy is the only one lying on the ground, and there are no scratches on him. Kim Daejuan and this guy's friends are gone. What should he do? When a siren beeps from outside, Lee Changyun realizes it can't be, it's the police. It seems he has no other choice. For the next couple of minutes, he pulls off something incredible.